from Xerox. I was there for a few years, and I never wanted to do the medical device jobs. Like, I had a lot of opportunities, but I didn't decide it. And my buddy at the time was my roommate, Eric Wright. He got into real estate, and he was having some success, and he was showing me like some social media stuff. And this is when I was really into Gary Vee, and I was like, yo, this is cool. This is like marketing, but it also, like, I can use my network. I know a lot of people. I'm from the area. I've always been like a very social person. I wanted to do something more like again, like, that's what I thought of business, not like working at Xerox or medical devices. Like, Medtronic is a huge organization, right? I was thinking more like local, fun, networking, events, and so he's like, get your real estate license. Eventually I did, and I fell in love. Like, my first year, like, quit my job, like, had no money, put like 30 grand in credit card debt. Do not recommend that. And Facebook ads to like hope I can sell real estate, and I figured it out.
What's up, everybody? It's Brooke Jones, aka the Millennial Agent.
Hey guys, it's your girl Tyra Nicole.
Hey everybody, I am Nicole Pay,
and you are watching the RPR podcast.
Matt Talbot.
Are we starting?
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Real People and Real Estate podcast, where we talk about the real shit and not about real estate. I'm one of your hosts, Brooke Jones, aka the Millennial Agent.
What's up, guys? It's your girl Tyra Nicole.
Hey everybody, I am Nicole Pay, and today we have Matt Talbot, owner of Redefine Real Estate. Welcome.
Thanks.
Is it like different being on the other end of the mic? Well,
Yeah.
You're always on the other end of the mic, but you know what I mean, because you do have your own podcast.
Yeah,
so is
not
it
like
different?
doing 100 questions in a row.
Yeah. So does it feel awkward?
Not awkward.
Not awkward.
Like, my questioning is always like, I really want to be a good interviewer. That's like what I always focus on. Like, how do I set these questions up so I get good stuff in a short amount of time, which is difficult, but
Yeah.
Hopefully
Very difficult.
it's been a long day. You guys do it at night, so like, you
We
know,
do.
I got up at 5:30. I've done a lot of stuff, so like,
yeah.
hopefully I'm not like.
We're an early riser too.
Love
I was
that.
at 4. Yeah.
Good thing we gave you some tequila.
Yeah. We gave
Hopefully
you
the
tequila.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for
Yeah.
the tequila.
So we start with hot topics, and first, obviously, we want to send our prayers and well wishes to everyone in Florida. They're getting hit for the second time, Hurricane Milton. We have a lot. I mean, everyone's snowbirds, so I'm sure we all know or have family in Florida. So, thoughts and prayers with you.
Did you guys see the video I sent you of Lieutenant Dan?
I didn't watch it all, so go ahead and explain it.
So
you watched Lieutenant Dion.
Lieutenant Dan,
Nailed that.
he is
Oh, I can do the
refusing.
whole thing.
He's refusing to leave his boat during the hurricane. And I think even the governor has gone down to his boat to like try and get him to come out, and he will not come out. He actually was on his boat during Hurricane Helene last week, was fine, but he's refusing to leave during Hurricane Milton. And
That's insane.
It's like
It's
some
not a
weird
big
people
boat.
in this world.
That's like, to me, that's a death wish. Like the mayor went, was it the mayor of Tampa, went on and said, if you do not evacuate, you are going to die.
He was like, he don't care, whatever. He's not leaving.
They even said for people that are not evacuating to write their social security numbers on their arms.
I would be so out. Like, why? Like, I don't understand. I just don't get it. Like, not to sound rude, because like maybe it's like a political thing if people want to like stay or whatever, but I just don't get it. Like, just go and come back in like 2 days.
But it's not easy to leave. That's the thing.
Quick vacation.
I mean, and
It's
I
not
get that.
easy to die either.
Exactly.
I
Like,
Well,
when a mayor
not to-
gets on TV and she's like, I watched it. She got on TV and said, if you do not evacuate, you are going to die.
Yeah, but guys, think about it. The roads are blocked. The highways are blocked.
That's the other thing.
There's no gas.
People are running out of gas.
So if you leave your house and you run out of gas, you're stuck on the road. Plane tickets are like, you can't find a plane ticket.
I think
and
the
they're like,
airport's even already shut down.
yeah, it was like $1,000 for a ticket to get out. Oh my God. And then you leave, and what if you don't have anywhere to go?
So a friend of mine had good friends that were in Asheville, and they fled to Tampa, where their in-laws were at. And now they're there, so they have to like leave again. It's just like,
Oh my gosh.
so wild to me of like the hurricanes are following these people.
I
It's
had no
horrible.
clue all of this was going on.
Yeah, and then so even that with Milton, like with Asheville, I have friends in that area too. And not to be like morbid, but it just puts in perspective of what these people are going through. The mudslides, obviously, is what hit Asheville. And she said they're okay, they're fine, but she just doesn't want to see any more bodies. Like, and they can't get to them because of the mudslides. And she's like, they can't get to us. We can't leave. And she's like, I look out my window and I just see bodies.
So how many people have like died from this?
I thought I read over 1,000, but I could
Really?
be wrong. from the mudslides.
I don't think they know yet. I think there's still people.
I think
that
there's
can-
still. Oh, I'm sure there. I mean, this was just last.
I didn't know it was that bad.
At the end of last week, she said that and they can't get to them because of the mudslide still. I don't think they're still happening, but I think it's just such a disaster zone. They can't. And she's like, you just look out my front window and.
There's a huge homeless population in Asheville. I was there a few years ago.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
I see. I didn't know that.
It's like it's kind of like this like cool like little hippie town. We were just there a couple years ago, and there's a lot of homeless people and stuff. So like, who knows like what the actual?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it is unfortunate.
Can I make it positive?
You can.
Everyone moved to Michigan and hit me up.
Yeah. That's when
Hey, look at that punchline.
that complaining about Michigan like comes in
I know.
handy.
I said that
it's
to William
like-
because we wanted to get a second home in Florida, and I was like,
Never mind.
We're gonna rethink that.
Yeah.
We'll just visit because we were talking about booking our house for Florida, and Katie, our friend that goes with us to Florida, she was like, "Can we just make sure there's a house for us to book?"
Oh yeah, you guys aren't gonna go to Florida this New Year's Eve, are you?
Yes,
Now?
we are going to Florida. You're
Is it not her? Is it? It's not that type of season around that time.
No, but and also where we go is farther north, so
Okay.
they're not going to. But she was like, "Can you just make sure there's a house there for us to book for Florida?" But all
Or
right,
some good news.
yes,
It's our 60th
episode.
Yes. We need that
Cheers
like.
to that. Yeah, cheers.
I know. Where's the yeah,
That's nuts. You guys do this.
60th episode.
So
God, we're already at
Shout out
60.
to us.
Shout out to us.
Yeah.
When did you start? Like how many? Like how long of a time period is that?
February of 22.
23
Wow.
or
23.
23,
February
yeah, because
23.
it's 24. Yep.
24. February of 20.
Congrats. That's a lot of work.
24. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm proud of us.
I am proud
I'm
of
very
us.
proud of us.
I know.
And we've had so many cool stories
need the
on
sound
the
effects.
podcast. And we were just talking about it a little bit earlier before, like you asked us who was our favorite podcast guest so far.
It's now going to be you.
I was gonna say it's you.
All right. Who was the worst though? Put that out there right now. I'm kidding.
Oh, we can't call anybody out like that.
I'm totally
I mean,
kidding.
I know who, but I'm not.
I was going to say, that might be after hours because I was going to say,
That's
I
so
think I
funny.
have some that come to mind too.
I would say the worst are probably just like when it's just us and there's not a guest and we're just trying
just
to make
trying
up
to, yeah.
like anything.
Because we talk so much like during the week that by the time the podcast comes, we're like,
Yeah.
Or like people that don't like really want to share anything with us, and we have to kind of like pull it out of them.
Yeah.
It's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
And then it just gets kind of boring.
But I think that makes like again it's hard, right? But I think that's what we were talking about earlier. Like makes like a good interview, or like how do you get it out?
Yeah.
Which is a skill
we've
like
actually had
that
people
you got to
say,
work
no,
on. You know what I mean?
Like Tyra, actually, there was one guest, she actually said, will you talk about it? And the guest was like, no. And we were like,
okay. And
Just
it
like
was
a
like
hard
a
stop.
really
it was a hard
it
no.
didn't, it didn't
like,
roll into
no.
anything. It's like
And then like we all were just like, okay, we're moving on.
Let's move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of moving on.
Yes, exactly.
Let's talk about you.
Yeah, let's talk about
We're
you.
interviewing you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do outside of real estate.
my favorite color is purple. Long walks to the beach. So I'm born
Is
and
it really
raised.
purple?
It is purple.
Okay.
Is it really?
Which is also our company color. So I'm not supposed to talk about real estate, but I say company. So like I didn't.
Yeah,
It's okay.
that's fine.
You
That's
can
fine.
talk
You can
about
slip
it.
it in.
You can slip it in.
What if that's all I'm kidding. So yeah, I live in Detroit. I'm from Michigan originally. I love Michigan. I love calling this home base and being able to travel the world and check out different places and get out of there if there's a hurricane or a tornado or some other type of craziness going on. So yeah, born and raised in Michigan. I do run the real estate brokerage. I'm very, very proud of that. And our people, it kind of has consumed my life over the last few years because I think real estate is a lifestyle, not just a business. It's quite the journey to do what we've done so far, and I think we're just getting started. So that's a quick spiel.
That's right. And so you grew up in Detroit, like in Detroit or outside?
No, I grew up in
Detroit?
Metro Detroit. I live downtown now,
Okay.
which I love
Nice.
living in the city. I've been down here for probably close to 10 years.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun stuff with that. But
So you saw a lot of
Oh, you went through the COVID too.
transitions.
yeah, we were down here for
downtown.
all of COVID. Yeah, a good amount of transitions for sure. I think my sister's been down here for a lot longer. A lot of people that you stay here long enough, like a lot of my direct neighbors, they've been here for many years and lots of changes. And it's a beautiful city. It's one of the most underrated places on earth. And I've done a lot of traveling. We do a couple different YouTubes and podcasts and stuff. One of them's Living in Detroit channel. And like the hate that we get on that channel is so
Really?
like, it's
People
wild.
hate on Detroit.
It's so wild and like it's just funny. It's always like like they have the worst tag ever,
what,
and they're like,
though?
Detroit's the worst city ever. Like you can't even walk down the street. I'm like,
they're still saying
I want to be like, where do you live, dude? Like, tell me there's not. Anyway, so I'm a big advocate of the city. I think that there's a lot of fun stuff happening, and I think that like the sports are doing good right now.
Yeah.
And we talked about kind of like the current state of the Hurricanes and stuff.
Maybe
but
they'll get it together.
They'll get it together one day.
Who's that?
The Pistons.
Yeah. That's a different story.
That's
yeah.
like our next team to come up.
And it's funny that you said that though, because obviously watching the Tigers today play and when there was a video of the skyline, and I looked at my kids and I was like, that's our city. Like it's a gorgeous skyline, and then to see Comerica Park and all the people, and it was a beautiful picture. So we do have an absolutely gorgeous city.
Yeah, I think like history. Well, I look at, so I have a decent view from my place. Like I'm very blessed to have that. And I look out the view, and it blows my mind being in real estate now, because like we talk about like blueprints, we look at drawings, they're all done in CAD and all done by computer. And you look at a city like Detroit, and there's these huge buildings everywhere, and those are done by like hand drawings, like back in like the early 1900s. Like they just redid the Book Tower right here. The Book Tower is I don't know, it's like 40, 50 floors, and there's steel beams that go all the way up, and there are rivets in there that they did by hand all the way up. And I actually got a chance to tour when they were redoing it, and the guy said they only had to redo like one beam, and like all this was done by hand in like the very early 1900s. And so it's pretty mind-blowing where Detroit was a long time ago. It was like what Dubai is today, right? Like everyone in the world wanted to be here, everyone was moving here, and then we've had a lot of transitions through the years, and there's a lot of history to support.
So is that what one of your podcasts is about, is like the history, or do you?
No, living in Detroit is moving to or living in Michigan, really, and we focus on Southeast Michigan. It's really a real estate channel to try to educate people from out of town. And we do some stuff in the city. We do a lot of stuff in the suburbs as well too. So we do tours of downtown areas. We do tours of real estate. We talk about pros and cons and do a lot of research so people that are moving here can look into that. And YouTube's nuts. It's like we've been doing it for that channel just over a year now, and how it snowballs, and like we'll get a call and like, hey, I've been watching your channel for like a year, really like the stuff, we want to buy a house with you. It's an interesting channel to go about it, but it's also taught me a lot, because I'm always like doing research, my team's doing research, and I'm like trying to read the statistics. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, I didn't know this, and so it's taught me a lot.
Interesting.
Has YouTube always been a passion for you, or how did you get into YouTube?
Years ago I started a podcast called Moving Motown, which I'm like very disappointed it's taken a hiatus, but I'm not done with it. We're going to circle back to it. I really enjoyed it. And the point of that podcast was to tell positive stories about Detroit and our community, because I don't think this was this is 2017. How many years ago was that? 7-8 years ago. And so there wasn't as many podcasts, there's so many things happening. And so there's all to me at the time, social media, there was like election coming up and politics and all this negativity. I was like, I just want to say positive things and put it out there. And so when I got into Moving Motown, I really liked it, but we've always done a ton of marketing when it comes to real estate. So that kind of overlaps, and I'm always just playing around with something.
Yeah, cool. You talk about how you've traveled a lot. Where have you traveled to, and what was your favorite spot?
Hands-on favorite spot is Costa Rica.
Haven't been there yet.
I've been there probably 7 times, 8 times now.
Wow.
There's a little town that I have some family friends that have owned property there for a long time, and they're always like, go to Costa Rica, go to Costa Rica. I never went. I went in 16 or 17 and absolutely fell in love. Since then, my best friend literally sold it. He liked it so much he sold his business and moved there and built a couple houses. Now they're building a recording studio.
Wow.
So they're going to be doing retreats and different type of tours and different, you can go, there's multiple houses you can stay at down there. It's absolutely gorgeous. So if you guys ever want to go to Costa Rica, holler at me.
Yeah.
So what do you like most about Costa Rica? Is it the scenery and how beautiful it is, or what is it?
Pure, in 2 words, pure vida is everywhere you go, they say, instead, in Detroit, they say, what up, doe, right?
Yeah.
That's what you say. In Costa Rica, they say pure vida, which means pure life.
Okay.
And so the whole culture is almost built off that statement. You walk around and people are like, what's up, man? Pure life. Pure life, pure life. And really? It's they live that culture. My best story of that it's absolutely gorgeous, to answer your question. But I think like the combination of like the food, the vibes, and the people. But we'll be like as tourists, right? A bunch of gringos down there. We're like, hey, we're gonna go watch the sunset. And we like tell the locals, like our friends down there, we're gonna go watch the sunset. Like, we're gonna come too. And like they go and enjoy the sunset. Just like they live it every day,
right.
but they're not like used to it. It's not like played out. It's like they still live like that very like vacate. They live off the land. They live off the vibes. They live off the people. And it's like it's just
they don't take it for granted.
No, like it's like they almost like appreciate it more than me. And I'm like up here freezing my butt off half the year, and I go down there, and to me it's like the best day of my life. And they're like enjoying it maybe even more. And there's something to say about that. So it's always the people that make places awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
So it's like a good energy.
It's the best energy.
Like life is just a little bit more slow there.
Definitely a different pace of life. The place that we go is also what's called the Blue Zone. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. There's a Netflix out on it, which is pretty interesting. They studied all the places in the world.
Yes, I've heard about this.
Have you seen it?
Yeah. No, I haven't seen it, but I heard about what you're talking about.
So they wanted to figure out where people are likely to live to 100 or longer, where people live the longest. And there's only 5 blue zones in the world is what they found. And one of them is in Costa Rica. And so you're likely to live to 100 if you are from that area. It's based on like diet, exercise, like what you do. And then if you watch the Netflix, which is pretty cool, it's about like what your connection with life is. So like,
like
do you do
mindset.
something consistently, and does it feel like work, or does it feel like play kind of thing, is the way I relate to it. And I think a lot of people there really take passion in what they do and just have a different vibe about things.
Do you have one place that you went that shocked you that it wasn't what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah. Texas did.
Really?
Gosh, and I love Texas.
No, I liked it, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a bad way. I thought I was going to hate it.
Oh, really?
I was like,
okay.
cowboys and just like bad tones and bad vibes.
It's amazing.
And I've been to Texas a lot now. This is years ago. When I first went there, I was like, I'm not going to like Texas. Loved it. I almost moved there.
Everybody I feel that goes to Texas like loves it.
It's like underrated.
Yeah.
Like like I love Austin, which is kind of getting a little bit, I don't know.
Too busy now?
Yeah, it's like college. Like the college town stuff's a little bit too much, but Austin's a really cool town. I have a bunch of people in Dallas. Dallas is cool.
I always say that to my husband. Like, we're so quick, especially in Michigan, because it's cold. We're so quick to leave the country, but there's so much within our own country that is absolutely stunning.
Yes.
And I want to try to get to like Arizona. Arizona's beautiful. Sedona. Epic. Gorgeous. I've been on some of the best hikes of my life in Arizona, but then you don't have the Californias that's so touristy and stuff like that. But the Dakotas, Wyoming, like there's so many gorgeous places, but yet when it's Michigan and it's November through March, we're like, out of the country. Let's go.
Straight to Mexico. We're going to Cancun. We're going to sit in the sun.
But my best friend just got home actually 2 days ago from a honeymoon. She was in Maui. And we were talking today on our drive home, and we were talking about how we're so quick to vacation here in the States. But if you think about what you pay just to go to like Florida, Miami, you can use that money and you can probably spend just the same amount or less if you were to go to some of these places out of the country that the dollar's worth more than what their currency is. So
that is very true.
So I do want to do more vacations out of the country. I've had enough of Florida. I've had enough of California, and
Vegas, all of that.
That's fair enough to say, but I do like even the west side of our state is absolutely stunning, and people don't torch Lake. Like if you haven't been to Torch Lake, like you need to go because it's like you're not in Michigan.
Yeah.
Only tell cool people though, because we don't want it to be too crowded over there. Like you want it to be like.
I've never been there.
You've never been to Torch Lake? No. Oh, that might have to be an iconic circle trip.
Definitely got to do that. Have you been to Traverse City?
I have been to Traverse City.
So you've
for the first time, like during right after COVID was starting to be over. That was like the first little place to go.
Got it.
You don't feel like you're in Michigan.
Yeah, so you're close. So you've seen like the Straits. You've seen like Michigan over there, and it's
it was beautiful.
It's the best country in the whole country. It's like it's literally gorgeous. So underrated.
So underrated.
Definitely.
So tell us a little bit more about your childhood.
Yeah.
What was it like? Where did you grow up? High school?
So in middle school, I had frosted tip hair. No,
Aaron Carter.
Yeah, I grew up in Plymouth, which, if you don't know where Plymouth's at, it's halfway between Ann Arbor and Detroit, which was cool for me. I think I got the best of both worlds to some extent. Definitely spent a lot of time in like the Ann Arbor area growing up, and like slowly did more and more in Detroit based off of my experience. But both my parents own small businesses, so I was always around kind of small. Like my mom still to this day runs an antique shop in Ypsilanti, Michigan. It's been like 45 years. Yeah, so she's been selling antiques for like 45 years. My dad ran different businesses, and the main one was a small par 3 golf course, which was more like a bar and a grill from the Ford plant up the street. So I always grew up around that, and that's what kind of led me into doing business on my own.
So it's always been in your bones, entrepreneurship.
Yeah, like I didn't know better. Like all my friends' parents had like crazy big houses and stuff, and I'd be like worked at companies. Like that was so foreign to me. Like it didn't. I don't know. Like my parents were always at things. I would go to work with them. I'd hang out with them. You know, so it was always kind of part of my upbringing to be around. That's what I thought what business was. I didn't realize like, oh, there's like, you know, huge
whole
businesses.
corporate
Were you an only child?
What's that?
Were you an only child?
No, I have an older sister, Samantha. She's basically like an older mom to me now. She pretty much tells me what to do every single time. No, she's great. So my sister actually has been in Detroit, like I said, for many years.
Yeah, you did mention your sister.
She worked for, she still works for the city, and she worked for the mayor for a long time. She worked for Duggan, which I think has done a great job, not to go down the political path. I don't know if that's a thing or not. But she's awesome. She really taught me a lot of good stuff. And she's the person like, every holiday we're like sponsoring 3 families. Like Thanksgiving, she's like doing like a soup kitchen. She's always like she really has taught me how to give in a lot of ways. And I think it's important to have those people in your life because sometimes it's easy to get distracted from stuff.
I love that you said though, like having friends whose families or parents had corporate jobs, how it was so foreign to you, because for me it's the complete opposite. I mean, my father was an entrepreneur, but he was always gone because he worked so much, because that's what entrepreneurs do. Like there's no 9 to 5. But my mom was corporate America, so that's all I knew. When 5 o'clock hit, you know, punch out, go home, eat dinner. Like, so it was the same routine. So it's funny having a different viewpoint coming from an entrepreneurship family and someone like myself who was straight corporate. Like my mom was straight. I never went to work with my mom. That I told take your kid to work day. I never got to go.
I would literally get up earlier and earlier to go to work with my dad. So like when I was a little kid, he'll tell the story. He's like, I kept getting up early. It was like 7:30, 6:30, like 5 o'clock. I'd be up ready to go because I just want to come hang. It was like fun.
Was that at the golf course?
Yeah, that was at the golf course. Like I started like picking cigarette butts up. I'm like, give me $1, I'll go do this. Like I was always trying to make it $1.
Okay.
So did you kind of have aspirations to take on your dad's business, and did he have those, or that expectation for you?
Yeah, that would have been a cool one. So this is like full Michigan history. So my dad's golf course was very much contingent on the Ford plant up the street. In 2007, when like before the real estate crisis, we kind of had like the auto thing, right? And a lot of the auto thing took a big step back. And so that hit his business really hard. And I was like 16, 17, whatever. So he got rid of that business when I was 18. It would have been a cool one for sure. Yeah, I was a really heavy golfer growing up. I actually golfed a lot competitively as a kid, and then a little bit in college and stuff. So I was golfing a lot at the time, but I just liked working. Like I always liked to be around, you know, the hustle, I guess. It was just fun meeting people, always being out and about. That type of stuff was always interesting to me. I'm always like looking out the window. I was never like in a book or anything like that.
Is it still there?
What's that?
The golf course?
No, actually I drove by a few weeks ago.
I was just going to ask you, have you been by?
The guy that bought it was supposed to develop it, and it never got developed. And I'm thinking like, now that I'm in real estate, I'm like, should I like go full circle and buy this and turn it into something?
That would definitely be full circle.
Oh my gosh. What would your dad say?
He'd be down. My dad, my parents are, very few people are as blessed to have the parents that I have. Like they were so unbelievably supportive, have never like tried to get me to do a certain thing or be a certain person. They really let me do my own thing. And I think that's like one of the biggest blessings that I probably have. Because I don't think everyone's that lucky at all. I think a lot of people, you're supposed to do a certain thing, you're supposed to be a certain person, your parents are always telling you what to do. I get the reverse treatment, which drives me crazy. I'll be like, Dad, I really need advice. He's like, you know better than I do. I'm like, that's not an answer. Like I'm looking like I need advice. He's like, you got this. You get like, because he knows it's
but
very
in some way
thoughtful.
that's still giving you advice, because
it's
he's
allowing
he's allowing you to, instead of that was mine. I thought that was mine. Your health. Mine
I
just went
hate
off.
that thing. Like,
Really?
don't tell me when I have to go to sleep. Like, I don't like.
Mine does.
It just came up with the time where I have to go to sleep. Like
mine goes off at 8:15.
Oh, that's the lullaby thing. I was like, is it telling you to stand? You're like, I'm sitting right now.
Like, yeah. Like, don't tell me when to get up.
All right, this is really controlling.
That's funny. So, at the age of 18, your dad sold the golf course, and then what did that look like for your family?
Yeah. So, talk about like full circle. Let's be honest, because I always am. At the time, like they were basically, I don't know if they were forced to sell the house, lost the house. I don't really know because I wasn't really around, but it financially hit the family pretty hard. And so, which is interesting because like I grew up in this home that I think we eventually lost, if I had to guess. They moved into a smaller condo and stuff like that. And now I sell houses in like the biggest subdivisions that like, you know, growing up were like, oh my gosh, like you live in here, there's like a gate, you know, it's like next level to me. And now we sell those homes all the time. So it's kind of interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, it was difficult. There's a few years in there too. I probably wasn't the best early adult person either. Like part of the thing with your parents letting you do your own thing, as I was very free and I was always pushing boundaries my whole life. So there's a few years that I probably wasn't the best person I could have been. But
as far as
tell us about that.
You know, like you start partying, people start giving you tequila. you start ending up with some
Peer
stories.
pressure.
You know, there's a lot of pretty girls around, all sorts of stuff. So. Yeah, there was a few years where I wasn't the best version of myself, but I looking back, as much as you say you have regrets or would have done different, I really wouldn't. I think that there's a certain level of like you need to hit some type of bottom.
Yeah.
Like I truly believe if you talk, you guys have interviewed 60 people, you said, right? So I'm sure there's a reoccurring theme here that a lot of people that have succeeded at a high level at one point had a really big low.
Oh yeah, almost every single one.
Yeah, I would say almost everyone.
Because I think if you're just like always good, it's hard to like really try to like become something. So
you don't appreciate when you don't have the bad, you can't appreciate the good.
But I also don't think you know who you truly are when things are going that well.
Right. It's like always
you don't,
even keel.
Yeah, you don't really figure out those defining moments until you have to physically, mentally, and emotionally go through them. Yeah. So until you've hit those moments, you don't, I mean, even teaching my kids about adversity. Like, the world's ending, you know, my daughter's going through growth pains right now, and I'm trying to teach her how to go through that adversity at 12, being a preteen. Doesn't want to speak to me, doesn't want to talk about it, but just wants to complain about every ounce of it. But it's the same thing. Like, you have to learn how to navigate these moments. So I don't think you fully know your own self until you hit those. Not that growth pains are like pivotal moment in her life, but they kind of are at this moment.
Based on her 12 years, that's like that's important. Yeah. It's important to like help, but also like let them grow.
You gotta go through it.
You gotta get back up. So like now I'm unbelievably blessed because like there's certain things that I think about. I'm like, this is easy compared to that. This is easy compared to that. Like I know what I want. I want to make a difference. I want to show the people that maybe have not come out of that dark, bad place of like where you can go, right? So it's like that you start living a different life because you take on a different identity than you had, and then so I think that helps show people like, hey, you can do it too.
So what would you consider like that dark time, like the lowest time that you would say? Like what was going on? Yeah,
just way too much partying for sure. It was a weird time for me. So like my first 2 years of high school, I like crushed it and made like best friends with all the teachers, principals, like everyone who I was captain of the golf team, like Mr. Perfect, like letter jacket, whatever. And so because of that, I basically just didn't go the next 2 years and still like somehow like I didn't show up. I had like a 3.5. I don't know, high school's anyway. So I kind of like coasted, and then like I played golf a little bit in college, and that's where I was sort of like partying way more than I was golfing and focusing on school and things that I should have been doing. So I took a step back, went to community college for a while, and it wasn't, again, all horrible. Like it's still unbelievable because a lot of my best friends to this day were like from these time periods because we've been through some shit together, right? And so, you know, just acting like an idiot and a kid, and it was time to grow up, and I probably didn't want to and stuff.
Did you ever have one story you had to call your parents to help bail you out?
One story?
Tell us one.
One time where you had to make that pivotal phone call.
I'll give you an example of a story. Oh gosh. So I can't believe I'm putting this on camera, but it's true. So I was at a party in high school, and it was my...
Oh, this is high school? I thought we were going to talk college.
No, it might have been... Actually, it was either senior year or I just graduated. Okay. Somewhere in there, it was like definitely not the best time of my life. Okay. So I'm at my buddy's house, and his parents had moved out of state and he had this big house or whatever, and so he threw a party there, and like they literally weren't living in this house. So the cops came, and everyone's like, the cops are here, the cops are here. And I like run outside, and I literally open the door, and there's like 3 cops. I'm not the biggest guy, right? These cops must have been 12 feet tall, and I'm like, great, this is not how I'm gonna end my night. And I look up, and my dad was standing like in the parking lot, and I was like, what is going on right now? You know, like how is this a thing? And so I'm like, what? He's like, get in the truck. I was like, yes, sir, I can do that. I can get in the truck. And so, like, I guess my car was parked, which is in his name at the time. My car was parked not legally, so they were able to call him. They didn't call anyone else. And anyway, he drove me home, and I was super hungover the next day, and my mom did not coddle me or take care of me at all. I was like, can I please have some water or something? She's like, no, you got to live in that, you know?
How was that car ride home?
Very, like the longest ride ever.
The longest 5-minute drive ever.
Again, like my dad, he just like knows, you know? He's like mad, but he knows not to.
Yeah.
I'm way more scared of my mom probably, but.
Really?
They're both, again, I just knew like, it's not, for them, it was never about like, you're in trouble, you're an idiot, blah, blah. Like it was very rare that was the case. It was just like you know better, like you're disappointed, like it's disappointing, you know what I mean? Like
sometimes that's worse. Sometimes I think I would rather my parents be mad than throw that disappointment word out. Because you're like,
I know,
like, I'm so disappointed in you. Yeah, it's like the worst words there.
So what made you kind of turn your life around after that?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing that you can do as a human being is surround yourself with people that you should surround yourself with. And like in today's world where I like love to spend my time and attention and energy is around people that are much smarter than me, or people that are going to places that I want to go, and like I'm obsessed with that. And so I think you eventually come up with the idea of like understanding who you want to be and then have these sort of heroes to work towards. I don't know if this is, not to sound like sexist, I don't know if this is just like a male thing or whatever, but I think like in a lot of ways like I needed to have these mentors of sorts that were sometimes people I knew and sometimes people more famous that eventually led me into that. But I also, again, because of like just what I was ingrained in my head, I kind of pulled myself through the system. Like it was always like, I'm going to go to college. Like there was no like doubt about it. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to pay to go to college. I didn't even know what I was going to do. I like showed up and they're like, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know. I'm here to go to college. They're like, what are you going to say? I was like, I don't know. I was like, they're like, here's the options, like business. And they're like, what kind of business? I'm like, no clue. So like go to the undergrad and they're like, what kind of business school? I'm like, no idea. And eventually I got into marketing, which was a good fit for me and stuff like that. So I had a lot of really good friends around me that took care of me, a lot of people that told me when I was screwing up. And again, still good friends. Like I've been through some stuff with some of these people. And so having that background and having those people and being able to look them in the eye and like, they're like, really? You're doing this now? You're doing that now? You know, it's pretty cool. So
those Friendsgiving dinners must be great. Talking about them old times.
Yeah, we got some stories for sure. I got to be a little bit careful, but
who would you consider like those mentors? Like even if it's like some famous mentors or something, who are some that you would name?
Yeah, so now there was a few years, so going back to like the marketing, we were talking about the podcast and stuff like that. There was a few years when I got into business, real business, like I got my first job and all that stuff. I was really into Gary Vee when he first came out, like obsessed. Like I like really consumed a lot of his content, and that's when I started the podcast and I was doing other stuff. I'm like, this is right, and his voice was always in my head, and he said a lot of good things to me at the time. I'm bummed he makes like less content, and I don't know if I grew out of it or whatever, but that was really beneficial for a few years when I was graduating college. Because it sort of gave me like, yeah, this is right, and this is where the world's going, and this is sort of like, he was more of a philosopher if you think about it. So that was a big one for a while. I have so many now. I read a lot now. Like I used to hate reading. I read a couple books a month, and I like consume a lot of stuff.
Awesome. What's one of your favorite books?
Ooh.
Or one that you're reading right now? Yeah,
so one of my favorite books, business books, is The E-Myth. If you own a business and you want to start a business and you run a business, The E-Myth is my favorite, probably easy read business book. It's up there for sure, and it's like a very simple book, but it's the best book if you want to actually scale a business. Okay. It talks about, they have the E-Myth revised now, which is the new version. I've read that one a few times.
Myth, so, like M-Y-T-H?
Yeah. Okay. So the E-Myth stands for the entrepreneurial myth. Okay. And how the story goes is when you start a business, you think, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to own the business, people are going to work for me, it's going to be awesome, I'm going to print money, I'm going to chill, right? That's what everyone thinks. But instead, you start a business and you do everything. So like you bake the cake, and then you also clean the dishes, and you clean up the shop, and you're on the register, and you do the books, you do that, blah, blah, blah. And so what the E-myth is that you're going to get out of this technician state. You're eventually going to get out of this, like, you're always doing everything state, and it teaches you kind of how to do that.
I need to read that. So it teaches you to, what is that word?
Like delegate?
Delegate. It teaches you to delegate, because I really need help.
I think that's one of the hardest things, though. Like, I mean, I think we can all agree. I just have to say this because I keep looking. We all have black and gray on, and I think it's hilarious because it was definitely not planned.
I literally looked at you guys too when we sat down. I was like, we literally
I just had to all say this.
Yeah,
like, we all have black and gray.
You guys all have like black shirts with
this
gray
is how my
pants.
mind works, because I remember I was like,
didn't
oh,
see
they both
the pants. I knew we all had
yeah, we all have black pants, and this was
Wow.
Tara and I both had the hats on.
And we're
this, see, it's a vibe, you guys. It's a vibe.
Yeah.
But sorry, so let's get back into it, because I've been wanting to say that for like the last 2 minutes. It's been on my mind. But I think that's one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur, though, is because we work so hard to get things going. And even for all of us, we have we're a business together, and then we have our own separate things that we do. It's so hard when you get to that point to actually delegate it, because you know how it's going to be done, you know how you want it done, you know that it's going to get done, and then to give it responsibility to somebody else and trust them to do it, it's like, well, fuck it, I can do it myself.
And it's a completely different skill set. So
yeah,
like,
definitely.
Being a manager and a leader is a completely different skill set than
Absolutely.
running any business. I don't care what business it is. It's completely different. If you're selling real estate compared to running, it's a whole different skill set, and it's unbelievably more harder for me anyway. I don't know, other people, maybe it's more natural. But it talks about, so the thing that I like about it, a good way to think, like to summarize, is they say like, what's the best business in the world? And they use the example of McDonald's, and people say, well, no, it's not. Like, McDonald's is trash food and it's not good or whatever. But there's one thing McDonald's is: consistent. And so what the E-myth does is it shows you how to package your systems and processes so they're repeatable. Every business, even if you don't want to sell it, should be a sellable business. Yeah. Because you could literally have a manual and say, here's the business, here's how it's done, here's everything that we do as an organization. And as long as people do these steps, the business is done. So it starts to reformat your framework when you do delegate of what that looks like. Did you delegate well enough? Did you set this person up for success? Did you actually document the process and make it kind of like what I call stupid proof now, where it's like, I want to be able to hand it to a monkey and they can do it right for a lot of tasks, right?
We might have to read this as a team.
And that's a really difficult thing to do. So the people, you ask my mentors and stuff, the people in today's world that I think are the best mentors, like famous people, are like guys like Alex Hormozy, because they package the most complex thing in the most simple way. And I think that's where, like a professor, if they're going to teach you something very complex, they teach it in a very simple way, and the best business people do the same thing.
Dumb it down.
And that's where I'm like obsessed with. Like, I want to make everything very, very simple. So no matter who's on my team, I can have them succeed.
It does cause your brain to work in a very different way, though.
Because it's like you start with
it's like backwards almost.
It's like, I remember showing people how to run Facebook ads. Like, one of my first employees, she sat down and she's like, okay. She like looks at the computer. She's like, what do I do? I was like, Facebook.com. Like, it's like you gotta start with the letter, which is like okay, but like you don't think about like you really have to make it that simple.
Yeah, dumb it down.
And you don't think about it because you've logged into Facebook 9 billion times. You've done it the same thing, and you think it's very, very easy. I know a lot of things that I do naturally as a salesperson after being in sales for a very long time now is a very hard thing to teach. And so making that simple is an important thing that I work on a lot. I really, really practice it.
Can we talk about, because we're going to get a little bit into real estate now, how did you stumble upon real estate? Like, what made you want to get licensed? And then what was, like, your first few years like as a new real estate agent?
Lost, dazed and confused, beat up. No, so I was when I graduated school, I interviewed at a local division at Xerox, which sounds horrible. And part of it is definitely horrible. You don't want to. But I didn't know this when I got recruited at Xerox. Is very heavily recruited company because there's a lot of sales training. So I literally, again, going back into like that, starting with letter A, I couldn't even like speak leaving college compared to like where I should be. I sat down with my first sales trainer and she's like, you need to start like reading business books. I'm like, why? She's like, because you talk like a college kid. I was like, okay, I could do that. You know, it's like it hurt, but it's like that's the love that I needed, you know? And so I learned some business acumen and I had a lot of success at Xerox. It taught me a lot. It was very, very outside my comfort zone. I had like 10 panic attacks my first few sales calls. Like, it's
Was that your first job?
Yeah, my first
Yeah.
real job. And that was the
Yeah.
only real job I had until I got into real estate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I did that for 6 years, and all my mentors there went into medical device sales, which were
That's
like...
a long time, 6 years.
Yeah, you're telling me.
For your first job.
So I was going to go into medical devices, and I had some really, really good opportunities, like more money than I ever dreamt of, and it just didn't feel right. It felt like just shoving product down people's throat, and I wanted to do something more like holistic, and I had a marketing degree, which is what I really kind of liked from college after I figured out like what college was. And so... Anyway, long story short is I went into from Xerox. I was there for a few years, and I never wanted to do the medical device jobs. Like I had a lot of opportunities, but I didn't decide it. And my buddy at the time was my roommate, Eric Wright. He got into real estate, and he was having some success, and he was showing me like some social media stuff. And this is when I was really into Gary Vee, and I was like, yo, this is cool. This is like marketing, but it also like I can use my network. I know a lot of people. I'm from the area. I've always been like a very social person. I wanted to do something more like again, like that's what I thought of business, not like working at Xerox or medical devices. Like Medtronic is a huge organization, right? I was thinking more like local, fun, networking, events. And so he's like, get your real estate license. Eventually I did. And I fell in love. Like my first year, like quit my job, like had no money, put like 30 grand in credit card debt. Do not recommend that in Facebook ads to like hope I can sell real estate. And I figured it out.
How did the Facebook ads work out for you?
Yeah, it was great because like I had to succeed. So like the one thing, so we've ran our brokers in a team environment, which I totally think teams win, like period. I think working together in any organization, I don't care what it is going to go a lot further than working on your own. And the standard real estate agent wears more and more and more hats. You got to do a podcast, you got to do Instagram, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do all these different things. You can't do it all,
right?
And you got to do your own paperwork. You got to, you got to do listing appointments, you got to do showings. You can't physically do it all. So I always wanted to do the team thing. And one thing that I would say, like one takeaway I have is I wish my team had their back against the wall as much as I did. Because like I have to take this money that I'm putting on a credit card and I have to turn it into business or I'm gonna go bankrupt. So when your back's against the wall, you have nowhere to go. Again, like we're talking about when you hit rock bottom, you have nowhere to go but up. And so you have to like scrap your way out of it or fail. And like I never liked failing. So it worked out. It taught me a lot. I learned a lot about social media. I learned a lot about conversion. I learned a lot about real estate and networked with a lot of people. And it's so funny because that was a huge pillar of my business, and it still is some of our business, but since then just like the stuff we're doing is 100-fold, so
Love it.
So you said that you racked up, would you say 30 grand?
I don't know, it was like somewhere in there, like 20 grand or so for sure for a while, because I'd sell some, I'd pay it off. It was like I just kept like running the credit card. I got pretty bad for a while, but I had things in the pipeline. So for those of you back home, don't just like cash out and like think it's gonna work, but I was slowly building up a pipeline. I'm like, okay, this is gonna sell, this is gonna sell, this is gonna sell, and I kept just running ads, and I'd meet more people, and then eventually started to take off.
Okay, so would you say Facebook ads were primarily your main lead source as a new real estate agent?
Yes.
Okay. Did you do anything else besides Facebook ads?
I have the worst advice ever, which is no. I would sit at a coffee shop in Detroit and I would message people for 7 hours a day until I
but that's
But 7 hours a day,
I mean,
though.
that's
yeah, it's
still
the work.
leads.
But it's the worst possible way to start your business off. Like no matter what you do, for if anyone listening to this, like work your sphere of influence.
Yeah.
It's definitely the best way to do it. Because not only that, I'm like trying to convince strangers to work with me, let alone my friends and family and stuff. It's like
sometimes strangers are better to work with.
I was just about to say that. Sometimes it's better to work with people you don't know.
So how did you build like your business to get where it is today? What do you say that you did?
I hired 2 people, Nimish Patel and Stephanie Lopez, and they do everything else. No, so pretty much though. So my plan was always, again, like going back to this whole, like I'm at Xerox, I don't want to do medical devices anymore. I wanted to get in something that's mine. The plan was always to build something around that. Like I wanted to build something. I wanted to run a business. I didn't know what that meant in real estate yet. I just know like if I start selling stuff, these commission checks are big and I can do something with that.
Yeah.
And so like, again, like when the short amount of time, like, oh, this is perfect. I'll get into real estate. I can do marketing. I can build a team around it. We can do events in the community. We can do community service. We can give back. We can kind of build it from there. And so that was always my plan to slowly scale. And I started with a couple different people. My first person that stuck with me since is Nimish Patel, who's our sales manager, is my business partner. He's an absolute rock star. And same thing. He was working at like Quest Diagnostics and like just like a I don't know cubicle job. And again, nothing against these things, but I was like, I can make sure like you'll do good. And he's like, are you sure? Get your license, dude. Like you got this, you know. And eventually, it took him a while. I was like begging and pleading, and he did. And he learned a lot, and he's grown a lot.
How did you meet him?
I've known him for a long time. He's a friend of mine. Yeah. So
Okay.
we went to Western Michigan together. We didn't party at all there though. Like I stopped all high school. High school we stopped.
At that point, it was a done deal.
Yeah.
So as far as your family goes, are your parents still in Michigan?
Yes.
They're still, and then your sister's in Detroit. You're in Detroit.
Yes.
And then do you have nieces, nephews, children?
Yeah. So I got married in March.
Congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah. So that was fun. We actually did it in Costa Rica, which is cool.
Okay.
We had a
That's
little
cool.
church thing here. Then we did the bigger wedding in Costa Rica. So my wife's family is bigger. Like I have like a huge friend group, and not like a tiny family. Like there's a few people here, but my family's not that big. Her family's huge, and so one of the biggest blessings to me of first and foremost her, of course, but her sister has 3 little ones, and just being around the kids and the family has been awesome for me in a lot of ways.
That's
It's
great.
like it really has changed me a lot and has me excited, hopefully, God willing, for a family one day and stuff like that. So her family's big. We hang out with them a lot. We hang out with my side of the family a good amount too. Again, if you have that like family setup, right, and you're like from an area, to me, there's a certain point in your life where you should stay in that area unless there's a major reason to be somewhere else. And we have so many clients that are moving back to town right now from all over the country, all over the world, and most of them, they have that type of story. They're like, oh, we finally are having kids, we're in New York, we work from home now, we want to be close to the family, we want to be close to the family. Like, it's just a reoccurring thing. We probably sell 50 houses a year just from that.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something like sacred about that, and the older that I get, the more that I appreciate that a lot. And I appreciate how blessed I am to be around my parents. Like they had me at older age and stuff like that, and to be with them now. My grandpa's 91. I was hanging out with him the other day. My aunt's in town. I'm
That's
seeing him
awesome to
tomorrow.
have your grandpa.
Yeah, so he's around and like,
Yeah.
and he's still like full head of hair, like driving. I don't know, grandpa.
Driving,
We got to work on that one.
Wow.
How did you meet your wife?
At church. No, we met at a bar. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we like to hear that story.
I know. What's that? Tell us about that story.
What's your pickup line?
Come on, like who approached you? What was
We've
the
heard
pickup
a lot
line?
of like stories on
We
how,
have some pretty interesting stories.
All right, so I'm at this bar. So I'm at this bar. It's
Tell.
I had a bunch of people at my house, and I was supposed to go back there. And I swear, like, I'm not like I didn't grow up under any major religion or anything. So like, but I'm a very spiritual person, and this kind of like makes me think differently. So I'm at this bar, and we're supposed to go home. It's getting kind of late, and I literally met these people, and I got in this random Uber with them. We're going somewhere else. It's like, sure, I'll do one more, and like. I don't even know why, and I wasn't like in that crazy of like a state or anything. I just was like, you know what, I didn't want to go home yet. And I just got in this car. I got in this car. I'm like, why am I with these people right now? This is the stupidest thing
Those
ever.
random people?
Yeah, like I mean, I met them like 15 minutes before. We're having a good conversation. With like
And they were probably
cool.
like, why is this guy
Yeah,
in our
exactly.
Uber?
No. It wasn't like they asked me. They're like, you should
Yeah.
come.
Oh, they told you
We're
to
going
come?
to the spot. Like we just made I had been hanging out with them probably
was
for
a
like
cool
a half
vibe.
hour or so.
Yeah.
It was just a vibe. They were like, it's right down the street. I'm in Detroit. We Uber anyway. I'm gonna Uber home. Like whatever. So I get this random Uber. And I pull up this bar. I'm like, why am I here? I'm like, whatever. I'll just get one beer and I'll like get out of here. And so I go upstairs, and it's kind of like dance floor and all that stuff. And there's not a lot of people at the
Wait,
bar.
what bar is it?
I can't name that one. So we go
can't
upstairs.
name it.
Why?
It's not there anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. It really
Okay.
doesn't exist anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we go upstairs, and I go upstairs and sit at the bar, and I was like about to order a beer, and she's like, I'll buy him a beer. And I was like, what? And so and I was like, she's really cute, and the way she tells the story is
So
not nearly as
she
cool. but-
totally put
She
the
must
she
have.
was like,
like if you ask her, she'd be like, no, I just was like in a good mood that night, It's like,
But she did buy you a beer.
so this is a cool part. Yeah, so we hang out. We end up talking for like an hour, and I grabbed her number or whatever, which is like lucky. And she goes downstairs or something. I was like, all right, gotta get out of here. And I walk downstairs, and she's sitting at this bar with like this jacked, like really like pretty guys. Like, it's like good looking. He's like jacked. I'm like,
So she was with someone?
yeah. I'm like, what? So I walk over because I was like,
really wish she was here because I would love to hear this version
so
from
like,
her.
I thought I was like, this is some. I was like, man. So I got walk over, and I was like, this is the end of the night. So I'm like, I don't care who this is. I really enjoyed like meeting you, and like hopefully we can stay in touch.
You did it.
Yeah, and I like left. And then the way she tells the story is like, yeah, she was staying with this guy, but it was her gay friend. And so
okay.
he just looks at her like, oh, what? Who's that? And so like, I don't know. Then there was the follow-up game, right? The text message, the sales acumen paid off from there.
Oh, see,
okay.
that's when the sales come
So
in.
from there, it was just kind of...
Yeah, we talked
just
for a
kinda-
while and eventually hung out
Yeah.
some more. So
Oh,
Cool.
cute.
That's a kind of a cool story.
Yeah, it's
But
very
why
cool.
is her version different?
It just, you know, like whenever she did buy me a beer, but like
Yeah.
I don't think it was because of my stunning good looks. Maybe though. Like
I mean-
like this is the stuff that has me believing in a higher power. I got in a random Uber. She randomly, she doesn't.
Right.
She's not this type of person. She was like in a good mood, and she saw me, and she's like, "He looks lonely, probably. I'll buy him a beer."
Why did she say though? Like, did
Yeah,
she just
like,
appear?
she just said I was,
all
like,
of
in
a
a good
sudden,
mood.
like, I'm gonna buy him.
I
a
think
beer.
the last part was actually the only smooth thing I did, but it just worked out.
It just worked
Did
out.
you just look lonely or something? And she
I don't
just,
think. I mean, maybe. I don't know. That's ask her. We'll get her on the show.
I know. It's always fun when
She should have came on the show with me. She's
Yeah.
actually like the really funny one. She's got great stories. Everyone would be laughing their ass off.
we
I
should
don't
have
that.
you guys back and definitely
Yeah,
have her on. We've talked
for
about that
sure.
before. So your business now, you're an entrepreneur, you're very successful. What does the future look like for you besides more success? But what is the
Hopefully.
vision of the
and some
future?
little babies.
Yeah, so my mission, my personal mission is to get to the point where I can create leaders who create leaders. That's my goal. Going back to that rock bottom thing, it's like, I feel like if you hit a certain spot in your life, you have an obligation to make the world better. And eventually you have to pick something to do that obligation. And so for me, it happened to be real estate. It happened to be building a team around it, a brokerage around it. And so what the goal of the future is to continue to do that. We don't care to have like the biggest brokerage in town by any means, but I do want the most trusted, I do want the most giving, and I do want the most innovative brokerage. And I think we're definitely well on the way. There's things that we do that are definitely at just a completely different level than everything else that I see out there, not to razz anyone, but I like that. I like trying to build something, being a step ahead and providing those services to our people so that eventually I can create leaders who create leaders. And that's where it's my passion. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. And, that's the quick answer, I guess.
That's a quick answer.
Yeah,
Love
Rob
it.
talked about how sweet your office was, by the way.
Cool. Love that.
But speaking, well, I guess we're going to wrap this up, but we always kind of wrap up with this question. Can you tell us one of your craziest real estate stories?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. The craziest real estate. You should have prepped me with this one. I probably could have come up with something absolutely nuts. Craziest real estate stories. There's so many recent ones that are popping in my head, but those are not the craziest. This is just a quick one that pops in my head. I sold a house that I wasn't allowed to sell.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
How's that work?
So like, look,
Yeah, we need to hear this one.
it's not that deep. So like, this is probably not the best story I could come up with. But at one time, so I had this client, and he was selling his mom's house, and you know, I'm like, we sat down, like, you talked to the real estate attorney? Yeah, we got all our ducks in a row. It's pretty new still, right? And we sold this house, like everything went well, marketed well, sold it well, all that stuff. And then we get in the middle of the sale. He's like, yeah, so this has to go through probate, like still, you know. And it was when I was still very green. So this is one of those stories, like, what is that?
What's
now it's
probate?
like, this is like every day, twice a day, this type of stuff,
Right.
right? So long story short is we had to go through that whole process and stuff like that. So that's not that crazy, but there's so many others. You guys put me on the spot. I'm like blanking right now.
Well,
It's like, so many.
we've had stories about creepy people, like touring with creepy people, like
Dead
random
cats.
Zillow leads, and then locking them in the house.
Wait, what?
Oh,
Dead
yeah.
cats.
Dead cats
Yeah.
and
things that
bins.
you
in the
see
ground.
in the house, maybe like walking in on people doing
Oh,
some
I forgot about
stuff.
that. The
Yeah.
one that
Oh,
the
that's like on a
person
regular
locked them in the
basis.
house.
woman, like,
I've never
exposing
ran into
herself.
that.
Oh, I forgot about that one too.
Oh, you weren't here.
But I edited the video.
saw it,
I heard it.
And a woman
Yeah.
had ulterior motives, and she ended up exposing herself to the real
Yeah, one of
estate
the
agent
agents. Yeah.
during the showing.
I feel like I've been in those situations where I'm like,
He like
I
turned
didn't know
around and he
better.
was like,
Yeah, he
"Oh,
turned
here's
around
the living room." So yeah, we've had
so you're
some
just like, "Ugh, I gotta get
right. We've had
Time to
some
go.
pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I had a guy
stories.
one time that was a complete fraud for like a big, like a big $3 million piece of property.
Like Anna Delvey.
Like
Kind of
like
fraud?
complete, like, yeah, like talking this game. I have this business, all this stuff, blah blah blah. Everything added up. Show me proof of funds. We go to look at this $3 million property. It's like and it's with like a pretty well known agent. I felt so bad. And anyway, we go look at this property, and then he started saying wild stuff. Like, he had all these really cool stories, and everything added up. Everything's cool. And he's like, yeah, I just sold this one company, and I sold it to a guy down in Texas, and his last name's Musk. And I was like, what?
Elon Musk.
Like, you just had this, like, and like, my ears perked up, like, that doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
that's
Like,
all
you're
right.
like, really? You just
Like you had me until you told me your story.
Yeah,
That was
and-
a red flag.
And so then it got like wilder and wilder and
Yeah.
wilder, like deeper and deeper lies. And I was like, I kept calling him. He's like, yeah, I want to buy this property. Like, want to put an offer? Like, my attorney's gonna call you. I want to put an offer. Want to put. It was this really weird, like, fake it story.
That's crazy.
And it was like so weird. Like, I felt so catfish. Like, I felt like dirty. Like, who is this person? Like, who is he really? Like, what happened?
So how did you figure it out, or did you just be like, you know what, I'm
still to this day, like, because I got to a point, so I'm talking to the other agent, he's like, we want to write an offer, and I'm like, he's telling me this, but like, after a while, I was like, I have to represent my client, but after a while, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is.
I don't know who my client is.
I don't want like a horrible reputation, so eventually I was just like real with him, like, I don't know, man, I'm getting like red flags, it's not adding up, whatever, and eventually I literally just like, I kind of just like stopped answering the calls because it just was so fishy and didn't add up.
That's weird.
But he was so good. It was almost like he's, again, I don't know if he ever hears it, it'd be so wild. Maybe what if he is this guy and he's actually just a billionaire and like.
Did he show you?
Doesn't have nothing else to do with
Yeah,
like everything added up. Like everything was like, I really vet people for properties like that.
Yeah.
Like we work with a lot of high end clients. We're very blessed in that facet, and so I'm pretty good at it. But it was so weird. I felt like dirty. Like, who is this guy? Why is he like messing with my life? It's just weird.
Messing with my life.
That's the one. I should write down like the top 100 stories so I can repeat it. Yeah.
Top 100 stories.
Yeah.
So, what would you tell your younger self?
Find the smartest, most interesting, most diversified people in your life and hang out with them as much as you can.
That's good.
That's a good one. I don't think we've heard that one before.
That's smart.
Definitely.
No, that is good. Isn't it funny though? Like, you start to realize that later in life. Like, again, I try to tell my kids, like, you're not gonna know half these people in 10 years. Promise you, you're not. So it's like trying
you gotta let them go through it though.
You do, and it's. I think the older we get, I think it's amazing how you start. What is it? What is that saying? You attract. No, I can't think of the saying. Never mind.
Your vibe attracts your tribe or something?
Something like that. Yeah. Like, your vibe attracts your tribe. Like, what you want and what you want to speak into.
Or your worth, like what your what's the saying?
People that you're around or something.
Yeah, it's like your network.
But how many of us don't realize that until we're older? I think that's just
the truth.
It is.
And it doesn't have to be just like smart and like, I might have said it wrong. Like, it can be like the most loving people, the funniest people. Like, I've been getting in comedy a lot. Comedy is like big. It's like, I want to hang out with funny people. It's just like fun. Like, you just laugh.
Laughter is amazing.
It's just like so just like finding those types of interesting, quirky people and hanging out with them, to me, is like what life's about.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
That is very true. Yeah. Well, I think we are wrapping this up. Thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for sharing your jailbreak stories
wisdom and knowledge
and all your wisdom.
I can't believe I put that on the internet. It's so nice. It's so embarrassing.
We're gonna make a short out of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be a great reel.
Yeah. Please don't grill me like that.
Well, thank you guys for tuning back into the Real People and Real Estate podcast. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
Bye. Alrighty.
These do hurt my ears after a while.
Yeah, it'd be great to take them off.
I love my baby headphones because they're the best. I have the baby ones.